I'm attorney Phil Jusino, and this is the Phil Jusino Show, coming at you from Strathmore Studios. In the coming days, this show can be seen on YouTube, Spotify, and for those of you on Long Island, Cablevision, on Thursdays, channel 115 at 10 p.m. This show will be on May 23rd. Let's get to it. My special guest for the evening is Gary Jacobs. Gary is a proud Zionist Jewish American. Welcome aboard, Gary.
Thanks for having me.
In March, Gary organized a pro-American counter-rally in Hicksville, where he marched across the street from thousands of Palestinian supporters. And in April, you went to Albany with a group to lobby for the release of hostages. What was that group, Gary?
It was March for Life, it was called. And it was a group that all they want to do is keep the focus on releasing the hostages. So it's not a political group. I wouldn't even say it's necessarily a pro-Israel group. It was really just to keep the focus and reminding people that there are still hostages.
Right. And I haven't seen much lately, but I was watching a press conference and the spokesman for the Biden administration said, we know there are dead hostages and live hostages. But it seems like they don't have that much information.
No. And it's crazy that really, like you said, you don't hear that much about it. I know there's so much. We have the trial going on with Trump, right. And there's so many wars that are getting ready to go on. You still have the Ukraine, and they're so concerned about is Israel going to go in and they're going to destroy everybody? But they're barely talking about. There's still America. Even if you don't care about Israel,
right.
There's America. Since when don't we care?
Right.
That there are Americans being held hostage.
You're
It's
right.
and that's what this group says. We need to keep it in the forefront, but it's really not. It's really not
the
out there
Capitol
all
to
the
do that.
time.
Before we get into that discussion, which we'll do shortly, you are the president of Americans for Legal Reform.
Right.
And I know what the group is, and I've spoken before the group. Tell us a little bit about the organization. I want to give context to who you are.
So we're the oldest legal reform group in the United States. It wasn't started by me. It was started by the founder, Carl Lancezera, who you know very well. And he was in a court system probably now over 40 years ago with a divorce, a contentious divorce, lost his life savings. His kids were alienated against him.
I knew his kids.
That's right.
You know that.
That's right. And he said, I'm going to do something. But he started this group with his initial goal was legal reform.
Right.
We got to change the system. It's broken. And he spent many years, whether it was lobbying.
And he's still involved, isn't he?
Yeah, he's still involved a lot. But we really didn't. The system got worse. And he says in the 40 years he's doing it, in the 20 years that I'm doing it, it really got worse.
40 years he's been doing it.
40 years. And we just haven't seen any change in the legislation. People still get drained. And I mean, and you live in this world every day. You know there's bad people. Obviously you're one of the good guys. And, we welcome good guys. We're not anti-attorney. We're not anti-judge. We're not anti-bad actors. And there's a lot of bad lawyers
and you
out
try
there.
to expose that.
And we try to expose it. So that we got away from the legislation more of, number one, we try to expose bad judges. Because at the end of the day, that's not that hard to do. And nobody wants to be exposed if they're either corrupt. It's not as much corruption as it's bias. People go in with a bias. Right. Whether it's a political bias, whether they're friends.
So it's not like the judges are on the take, but you think there's certain bias, preconceived notions.
Exactly, and they can just do what they want because there's really very little oversight. Some states they appoint their judges. They have panels. Here they're elected, but are they elected because they're the best people for the job?
Right.
Are they elected because they were a successful lawyer? Well, a lot of successful lawyers wouldn't want to become a judge, but there's always ones who want to do it for the right reason. There's people who just say, you know what, I'm getting old. I want to go in. I had a good career. I want to go out on a pension. There's nothing wrong with that. They're good people. But then you got people who were bad lawyers, bad people. They're going in because their ego, and they want to sit up on that bench and play God. They don't listen to people. And those are the judges. I mean, as you know, they're rude to lawyers too. They're not. There's judges who scream at lawyers, scream at prosecutors. So we try to expose them because that's really something easy to do. Will it make a difference? It does usually on that individual case. And once lawyers know, judges know that we get behind somebody, they know that we're serious.
And you're given access.
Yeah.
Sometimes I was a little surprised. Sometimes I see you or somebody in the courtroom. So the judges are mindful of that.
Oh,
I
they
believe.
definitely are. We get, I mean, if we send a
Transparency
right
there,
up to
right?
the top, they get right up, and they know we don't give up. First of all, we try to be on the right side. So I think that sends a message when we go in that we're on the right side. Not to say that we don't make a mistake.
Right.
We get tricked sometimes.
And what I've seen, you're respectful.
But we do. We try. We always try to go. We give everybody. We go in. We're respectful. We try to give the benefit of the doubt. We have court watchers. But if we're treated with disrespect, we're not going to roll over. I'm not going to get bullied in the courtroom, and they know that. I've sued the courts and I've won. We've had judges reprimanded. We do fight back. So.
And James Kelly, one of your members,
James Kelly,
he's been on this. We talked about cameras in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Now you also are a business owner.
Yeah.
What kind of business do you own?
So
I can't pronounce it too well, but
yeah, I own a company called Scoochie Pet Products.
Scoochie.
And
I always want to say Scoochie, but
which is
Scoochie.
funny because you talk about about the court, and that's how I got involved. I was involved in a contentious divorce, and I lost my life. I was a hardworking guy, had a great job, and I lost my life savings simply because I was getting divorced. Doesn't matter whose fault it was. I wanted to get divorced, shared custody of my kids, and go on with our lives. And it didn't work like that. The courts just bilked us for all the money. My ex-wife was able to alienate the kids with no problem, and it destroyed my kids' lives. But I was in such a debt when I went into my divorce with 7 figures. I came out 6 figures, way into the 6 figures in debt. And I said, man, what am I going to do? Because even if I got a great job,
Right.
and I made $250,000 a year, and I'm calculating, there's no way I'll ever get out. I won't live long enough. So I started my own business. So in a way, the courts did help me. I started Scoochie Pet in 2014, and thank God we've been very, very successful, beyond our wildest dreams, and a lot of it's because of the connections that I have.
And you get to travel. I see you on
I do.
Facebook.
I travel all
Brazil,
over the world.
right?
Yeah, a lot of trips to Brazil, to China, to Turkey.
China, nice.
Yeah, so it really the divorce. That was one of the silver linings. I never would have met you if I didn't get divorced, right?
Well, look, you got lemons and you made lemonade, right? That's
exactly.
the expression.
So that's what we do.
Good. So what did you think when you saw these? And I want to say I was shocked, but I knew there was an undercurrent of anti-Semitism in this country. But when you saw Harvard and Columbia and colleges like that with supposedly elite students, and you saw what they were doing, it started out as pro-Palestine, and then it was full-fledged pro-Hamas.
Yeah.
What did you think when you saw that?
Honestly,
You must have been horrified.
I was, first of all, growing up on Long Island, we don't really see that much anti-Semitism, right? I mean, people can go their whole lives living on Long Island and never have experienced. Now, I travel the world. I went to college upstate. I experienced a little bit of anti-Semitism. I lived in Kentucky, so I knew it was out there. But listen, I know I could walk around with a pro-Israel shirt, an Israeli flag. I was shocked. And at the beginning, a lot of prominent Jews would say, this is anti-Semitism. And they would, no, it's not. We're just against, Israel attacking. You can be anti-Israel and still not be anti-Semitic. But then the truth, as you said, very fast, it evolved into the anti-Semitism. So I feel like, to me, it was just under the surface, all the time. It was right there under the surface that it came out. And it's, we're so far removed from the Holocaust that
80 years or thereabouts.
Yeah, so you have people who their parents never knew about the Holocaust. It's just something that happened in the textbooks. It's not that long ago, 80 years ago, that now we could be experiencing something like this again. But the fact that in the United States of America, as you said, elite universities,
supposedly are smart, but not so.
This is our future. The smartest kids are coming out of, and they're out there being
Look what they did the other day. 40 or 50 of them walked out on Jerry
at Duke. They walked out on Jerry just because he was Jewish.
Just because he was Jewish.
And he's not even outspoken Jew. He's not a big Zionist. He's not like Alan Dershowitz he's just a regular funny Jew. And they walked out on him. It's just insanity. Who would ever think that this would happen? We're not in the Midwest. Listen, you talked about the rally in Hicksville. Right. Hicksville, Long Island. We said, we saw them advertising a pro-Palestinian rally. I said, we should go and let them know that there are people who support Israel and support it. Our protest, actually, we did was pro-Israel, pro-America. Because America is a big supporter of Israel. And, listen, we can live free as everybody. Muslims, Jews, Hindus, we should all be able to live free. That's what makes America such a great country, that we should all be able to practice our religions. And I showed up there, over 1,000 pro-Palestinians.
And Nassau County has a big Jewish population.
But, there was about 50 of us on my side and over 1,000 on their side. Out of the 50, probably half of them were Jews. The rest were just proud Americans. They said, oh, we're doing an American, you know, they support Israel. And one of the things that I found was very disturbing, a couple of things. But number one, they had over 1,000 of them, and we scanned the audience. And I think I sent Danny some pictures. Not one American flag.
Of course
Not one.
They're also anti-American, let's be honest.
That's what I was getting to, Phil. They're anti-American, too.
Absolutely.
How do you not have one American flag?
They'll tear down the American flag. They'll graffiti a World War I statue.
Yeah.
And how does that help their cause? But they're anti-American, anti-Jew.
Yep.
Anti-Israel.
And our side, I brought mine anyway, but we all had the Israeli and the American flags melded together. We all had American flags. You know, we were singing the Star Spangled Banner. You know, these are real. We're Americans.
Sure.
You know, and this is a separation. And
that's very telling.
And but you know, interesting. The news was there, and they all came up and interviewed. And that to me, I said, you know, you want to get in the news, right? You're there. You want to let them know there's a counter protest. And that was I told everybody, make sure we point out. No, we didn't plan this because I wouldn't know that they wouldn't have any American flags there. And I told them the same thing, guys. Look across the street. Not one American flag. What is that? We all have.
They'll burn the flags if they saw them.
They ripped them off. We had one of our supporters had American flags and Israeli flags on there. You might have seen the Trump vehicle that drives around.
Yeah, sure, I have.
They ripped them off. They ripped them off their vehicle. The undercover cops caught them because they were there to make sure that it was safe.
Were they arrested?
They said they're going to prosecute. I don't know what the end. They did go up to them, and it was a family with a child in a stroller, and they walked up and ripped all the flags off the car.
Horrible. Now, this past October, when Israel was attacked, you probably remember where you were.
Yeah.
And how did that make you feel? It's horrific. And there were deniers. There were people. It really didn't happen.
Right.
But what went through your head?
Well, first of all, what bothered me was that the first thing really I said this wouldn't have happened if Trump was president.
I agree with you.
And
I said that.
Okay, I said because there was no space between Israel and the United States. They knew if Trump was there that he would be supportive of Israel. And
Absolutely.
if they did this, first of all, I don't think they would have done it because they know what would the response have been. They wouldn't be, send in all this relief. Trump would have said, listen, you just like we got hit on 9/11, you go in and you fight. We didn't start this war. But it's funny, what I heard at the beginning was we have to go in strong and hard because history tells us that people will start off supporting Israel and very quickly the support will go away. And that's exactly what
Israel
happened.
is a speck in that region.
It's crazy, right?
If you look at it, you can't even find it. You got to get magnifying. Yeah. It is such a small region surrounded and democratically elected officials in that country, and we got to support them.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a two-part question. Should American Jews be concerned about what is happening on the college campuses?
Well, first of all, that's our future, right? They're also getting publicity. It's also being accepted. You know, if they would have stopped it right away and said, listen, you and I know, I'm a protester, right? When I see something I don't like, I protest. I have people protest against me and, all right, that's America. We can yell, we can scream. But when you're out there screaming from the river to the sea, meaning I want to annihilate every Jew in Israel, that's different than saying, okay, I don't know how you can be, first of all, how could you be pro-terrorist in the United States? Number two, how can you be from another country, which these students aren't all Americans?
No.
I think they're saying like some of them is 30 and 40% were from other countries or outside.
Not even students.
Not students, right. But a huge percentage of Columbia, I forget the number. And
they took over a building. Did you see that?
Took over,
and they held some janitors hostage.
But how do you not deport them? So I think this is incremental. They go, all right, we're going to appease them. It's free speech. It's not free speech when Jews can't walk past them, and they let it go on, and it grows, and then it becomes, okay, you know what? Listen, kids always want to be part of something, right? It's
even if they don't know what's going on.
They don't. Most of them, I would say, don't know what's. I mean, you see the propaganda.
Well, when you put a mic to them, most of them do not want to speak.
Right.
And yet, if you go to, let's say, your side, you're willing to say how you feel.
We're not covered up with masks.
You're not covered up. And you say, what is the river to the sea mean? They don't even know what boundaries have for them. What you talk.
I don't even know if they know what it means.
I heard one lady, it was from the mountain to the sea, and they said, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Well, whatever." And then she walked away.
Yeah,
because they get embarrassed because they really don't know the issue.
But they're even just saying it. I don't think they know what that means. That they want to, and just like the funniest one is Queers for Palestine.
Oh, they wouldn't last a minute.
They were at at the rally that we did. They were across the street, Queers for Palestine, with the banner, and they're hugging them. And I'm like, these guys have to be laughing at these Queers for Palestine because it's legal to kill them under Sharia law.
Right.
And they were like, and they're so. Well,
How do they not know this?
I don't know.
Or they maybe they do know it, but they're just so
Why?
blind. I don't
It just doesn't.
understand
It doesn't. It's just like when I see Jews out. It was, believe it or not, there was Jews on their side.
On the other side?
On the other
That
side.
is nuts.
And of course, and they were they were taking pictures with them because like, oh, these foolish Jews here taking pictures of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you've seen that thing on Facebook. That's like chickens for Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Right,
you know, it's crazy, but it's true. How could you be, how can you? But anybody to support terrorism, you're supporting Hamas, who are terrorists.
Right. Hezbollah.
They want the destruction of Israel.
That's right.
They want to that's craziness.
It is.
Gary, I just wanted to ask you a question. Have you ever had an open dialogue, positive or negative, with any of the protesters that you've come into contact with?
One of them actually called me. Interesting. One of them called me before the protest, and she said, "Oh, I see you're putting on this rally. I just want to make sure that it's peaceful." I thought she was on my side, and then she says, "Just so you know, I'm on the other side," and she had a Jewish last name, and she was from the Hamptons, and I'm like talking to her for a few minutes, and then she says, "Well, you know I'm on the other side." I said, "Why would you be on the other side?" She said, "Oh, I'm for peace." And I was like, "Man," I said, "Wow, you're for peace?" I said, "I just don't know how any Jew could think that this is going to be peaceful. It's like appeasement. You're not going to."
Oh, it is.
No matter what you give them, we've given them. Israel has given land. They've had people move out of their homes in the settlements and given it up.
Right.
They will not be happy until Israel. Listen, if they're like that in America protesting against Jews, imagine another country.
We saw what happened in Europe, World War II appeasement.
Yep, it doesn't work.
If we didn't step in when we did, Hitler would have had all of Europe.
Yep.
The second part of that question, should American Jews care about not just what's going on the campuses, but what's going on actually in Israel?
Yeah, well, many reasons. First of all, Israel is the one democracy in the Middle East, right?
Right.
They're our ally. And I always, listen, Iran's a huge problem. I think now we can't deny this anymore. Biden gave them all the money back, whether they have nukes that are ready to go or they're a month or 6 months away. I don't think that the U.S. has the balls to go in there and bomb Iran if they have nukes. But let me tell you, if
Trump would.
Trump would, but right now they would. Right, we don't have Trump right now. Trump definitely would, but Israel definitely would. Israel is not going to allow Iran
They can't.
to have nukes because they know they told them they want to destroy him. So I think having somebody like that will do what it takes to destroy bad people, because as we know, Iran doesn't just want to kill the Jews. They want to take over the big Satan of America. They want Christians dead. They want Hindus dead. They
Little
want
Satan Israel, big Satan America.
exactly. It's just because they're closer.
Right.
And I've heard people say, listen, if Christians lived in Israel, they would want them wiped off the map too.
Right.
They
We're
want
next.
They want.
Christians are next.
We always say, in fact, when in the prep, I send you an email. I say Jews are considered the canary in the coal mine. Right. It starts with the Jews, but it never ends with the Jews.
If there were less Christians, we'd be under attack right now.
Right. Yeah.
There's enough of us where they know that they just can't.
It's not as easy, but you kill the Jews first, and then they move on. They kill blacks
and
they kill
Christians in other parts of the world where they are the minority. It's brutal for them.
They get prosecuted. Yeah. So that's why I think it's to have a big ally in the Middle East. For an American Jew, it's nice to know that we have a place that's home. I've only been there a couple times, but Israel's my home. I can leave and go to Israel, but more important, I probably would never have to do that in America. Although now seeing what's going on, we would never think this would happen in America. But other countries, in France and in Turkey, where do these Jews go when people want to kill them? They can always go to Israel and have a home. And Jews have been persecuted for thousands and thousands of years. It's I can't really explain it.
It is, and sadly, I don't think the Democrat Party, Joe Biden, it should be full-throated support, like with the Republicans.
Right.
And it's not. Just like when Biden said, well, if they go into Rafah, we're not going to give them the arms.
Right.
Then what happens the next day? Hamas fires on Israel. So you can't do that. It's just like saying, it's like when Colombia said, we're not going to let the police in here just yet.
Right.
So what do you think the students are doing? They're celebrating that.
Don't you think it's the same thing in Ukraine? We're giving them enough weapons to fight back, but not enough to really do the job.
Right, so Putin's watching and saying they're not going to be formidable.
He knows they're not right. He knows they're giving them enough. Yeah, Putin doesn't care if some people get killed, right? And either do the Palestinians in Gaza. Hamas doesn't care. First of all, where are they? In Qatar? The leaders of Hamas? I don't even think they're in Gaza. They show videos of them in Qatar. They're safe, and they're letting their people get destroyed. They put their ammunitions in hospitals and in mosques. They put them in the community. They don't care. They're the people that they don't mean anything to them.
Right.
It's like North Korea. We care about people, so it's hard for us to realize. Americans do, Jews do, Christians do. Most civilized religions care about life.
Sure.
It's you just
but we're
don't
the
think of life.
infidels.
And we're the bad people.
We're the
right.
infidels. I want to talk a little bit about proportionality. Okay. In fact, I had a debate with my cousin. I love him. We see things differently. We respect each other and we care about each other. And we were talking about proportionality and how when we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, Nagasaki, that wasn't proportionality.
Right.
But if someone punches you in the face, do you punch them back, take a step back, and see what happens next?
Right.
Or do you beat them up? Do you defend yourself? What happened to Israel? If they just sit back and let Hamas regroup. So proportionality, the problem I have, and I'm not a fan of proportionality. Right. If someone comes in, hits you, you hit him even harder. You got to send a message.
Right.
And that's what these Palestinian protesters, Biden, the Democrats, they want proportionality. And I remember, I forget what, Martin Sheen plays the president of this a TV show. I forget the name of the show. And he was saying, what is the virtue of proportionality? And one of his generals and one of his staff members said, well, that's the way it's always done. So he said, well, isn't that the cost of doing business? It's like a company that, yeah, look, we know the product is tainted. We know some people are probably going to die, but it'll be more expensive to get rid of that stuff.
Right.
So with regard to proportionality, have you thought about that?
I do. And the way I say this, because this drives me crazy. Like, as you said, every war, it wasn't proportional. You would never win. So they do it, you do it. Proportionality is a ridiculous theory. They started it, you finish it. That's what we all learned. But, so let me ask you, people who say proportionality, so what if Israel said, you know what, you're right, we're going to do that. They crossed over the border, they went to a concert, they grabbed a bunch of babies.
I know where you're going with that, right.
Took a bunch of babies.
That would be proportionality.
And threw them in an oven.
Right.
But they only put 4 in where Hamas did 5. Not even proportions, less than what Hamas did. And they burned the babies alive. They raped the women in front of their husbands, videotaped it, and then killed them all. Is that what they mean by proportionality? It's a ridiculous concept.
It is.
They started the war.
Right.
Like the blood on the hand is on Hamas. It's not on Israel. It's not on the United States. The blood is on the hands of Hamas, who started it. And I would say that by Israel doing the job and not listening to our weak president, he's saving America, because these are bad people. It's funny, none of the nations around there, Egypt, I think, what doesn't want, nobody wants the people from Gaza,
right.
because they were bred to hate. They were bred to want to kill people. Right. I say bred. It's not their fault. Children's raised in school.
That's all they know.
And they're taught that life is not valuable. You can kill people. They got all this money for aid, and they used it to build terror tunnels. So
right, and they hide under schools, they hide under hospitals.
Do you want those people
so
living in your country? Biden was even talking, I think he backed off, I think was it a week ago, when he said he was going to start accepting...
Yes.
What do you want these people? They're murder. So you don't think they're going to want to kill the Jews when they get here, and kill the Christians and the infidels when they get here, and they're going to want Sharia law? It's insanity. But proportionality is like, as you said, throughout history, the good wins. Right. When you fight back. They poked us with... and maybe that's what they were counting on. I don't know if you ever thought about that, but maybe, like, what did they think the response of Israel was going to be when you went in and took hostages and killed over 1,000 people? Like, what could you think? They think America was going to pressure them and say, hey, listen, Biden's here. He's not going to let them, maybe he'll let him kill 1,000 of us, but then we can get sympathy.
Did they think it that far out?
I don't know. I wonder what they were thinking was going to happen. I think they're lucky that Israel could wipe them off the map tomorrow. They got nukes. They could carpet bomb them. They could just go in and just kill everybody. And
they haven't.
The world's mad anyway. What's the difference? They respect lives.
Right. Now I know in some of our early discussions you had said when Jews say never again.
Right.
What does that mean?
So that's a saying that after the Holocaust, because in the Torah, which is our Bible, Christians will call it the Old Testament. We call it just that's our Bible or the Torah. We're taught you can't kill people, right? Only if you're in imminent danger of them killing you can you kill them, and that's why a lot of people you know, it didn't fight back. First, we didn't believe it was going to happen, whatever, like what's happening now, appeasement. But Jews really didn't fight back until it was too late, right? It was too far gone. So after that, we started saying never again. And a lot of people took that to mean, and I did too growing up, never again means this will never happen again. It can't ever happen again. The world would never let this happen again. It's not really what it means. What it really means is we should never allow it to happen again. There'll always be people who want to kill the Jews. There'll always be people who want to kill America. Probably always people who want to kill Christians, right? But never again means we will never allow this to happen again. And that's why so many Jews are armed. You know, we used to not have, you know, when I grew up, we didn't have a gun. It was, you know, crazy. We're peaceful people. But over years, listen, I need a gun. I want to protect. If they come for me, I'm going down fighting. You know, I'm going to take as many as I can. And that's what never again, that we're going to fight back. And Israel takes that very seriously. You know, they're not going to be wiped. They're never going to allow the Holocaust to happen again. Doesn't matter if the whole world turns against Israel. They're steadfast. They're going to kill
They're going
Hamas.
down fighting if necessary.
They're going to go down fighting. Absolutely. Yep.
What do you see happening? And I don't think this will happen. But if Joe Biden was reelected, what do you think that spells for the Jewish people, Israel, and also
And
here?
I was going to say, and in America, I think you're going to see more of the anti-Semitism uprising, which, as I said, never stops with the Jews. So then it becomes acceptable to hate people and talk about people getting killed. So what the next thing they go, you know, we're against black people. You know, well, black people should be annihilated off the earth, and maybe Christian people should be. And then you get like what's happening, you know, in Michigan. You know, we people elected to Congress who don't even like our country. They have Palestinian flags flying outside their office. There's going to be more. Omar. Yeah, it's going to be more and more of this going. I think it's just going to keep getting worse if we get another. Plus, I just think, to me, we're going to be a World War III.
Well, what's scary is I saw, and we know there's probably 5, 6, or more anti-Semites in the House of Representatives.
Unbelievable.
We know that.
Yep.
AOC, Cory Bush, Omar, and the list
Tlaib.
Tlaib, the list is long. And that's a pretty scary thought that these people, these are not fringe, these are in power.
Yep.
These people have a voice. Now, I saw an interview where someone walked up to all the people walking out, and they said, "Will you condemn Hamas?" And the Republicans all said yes.
Right, of course.
They sidestepped it. Well, you know, you got to condemn it.
Look at history and.
Can't you say we condemn terrorism, whether they come from the left, whether they come from the right? It's no secret what Hamas is.
Right.
Hezbollah, we know what they are.
Yeah.
Al Qaeda. This is not even should not even be close.
But that's a problem. I mean, look, Dr. Phil had a. I don't know if you saw the show.
The son of a Hamas leader.
Yeah, and then he had the Palestinians on there. He said, "Can you just condemn the attacks?" And she said, "You have to look at the history." And he said, "There's nothing. They went in, they killed innocent children. Right. That's bad. Can you at least say this is bad?" And they couldn't say that was. I mean, listen, if a Jewish person went out and murdered other Jews, I could guarantee you all the Jews would come out. And if you asked them, they would say, "Yes, this is a bad person. There's bad people in all walks of life. We must condemn it."
What's sad is I can't imagine students on any university condemning. Imagine if they did that to the blacks, or Italians, or Irish, or anybody. We wouldn't stand for that.
No, we wouldn't stand for it. I don't know. You know, it's interesting that it's acceptable for the Jews. Maybe they think because Jews, you know, are powerful, they've lifted themselves up. They're in positions of power. You know, they view everybody successful. Of course,
you're a real minority when you think about it.
Yeah, and not all Jews are rich. You know, it would be nice if we were. I'd love to have everybody be rich.
But think about this. You said there were about 1,000 or so people in Hicksville.
Right, in Hicksville.
Right. Now we know Hicksville has, just Nassau County, a large Jewish population in terms of, like the rest of the country, right? Big. And yet 50 people, and you said not all were Jewish.
Probably less than half were Jews.
Okay. And yet, where are all these Palestinians? They're not all Palestinian, obviously.
No.
Where are they coming from that they believe that they can just do that? Where do you think they're coming from?
Yeah, I mean, definitely some came in from the area, and that is a Muslim area. So I think, you know, they were able to rally so many people. And interesting, they scared the cops. The chief, Patrick Ryder, was there, and we had attorneys that were marching with us, and they said, "Everybody stay out of the street. There's no permit. You can't be in the street and block traffic." So we obey the rules, and we're on the sidewalk.
And they didn't.
Right down the middle of the street. And one of the lawyers that was with us, Judy Powell, I don't know if you know, she's a Nassau attorney, she went up to them and said, "Wait a minute, we're following the rules. Why don't you arrest them? They're in the street. You can't
Too
have
many of them.
And there was too many of them, so they come out with numbers. Numbers make a difference. And I think we're all. But you know what? Start arresting them.
Right.
And one of the police, well, that's what they want us to do. They want to have a video of us arresting them. I don't care.
But
You're
if there, are
breaking
no,
the law.
if there are no consequences, it's going to continue.
That's what I'm saying. You should have said, you know what? We're going to start arresting. Maybe
Right.
we couldn't arrest 1,000. And listen, they were afraid of violence because they called me as the organizer and said, "Can you maybe not do this counter protest because they've been violent towards police, and we want to we
They were
want to be
concerned for your
safe,
safety.
and we want to keep." They were very nice. They said, "Listen, we respect your rights, but they're a violent group. It's not a peaceful protest. They're going to try to infiltrate your group," which they didn't do, but they were told that they were going to try to infiltrate our group and agitate people. These were violent people. Not all of them. We always have to say not all of them, but if you are there marching to support a terrorist group, I mean, imagine if people went down the street supporting Osama bin Laden after 9/11. We still talk about in Jersey, where I forget where it was.
Celebrating, they were
Celebrate. We still
rooftops.
talk about how many years ago was that they were celebrating. A small minority of people in Jersey, it was at Patterson, I think, were celebrating. Imagine if people marched down the streets after 9/11 saying we support Osama bin Laden.
See, they said, look, you have to make an arrest. Remember Giuliani's broken window policy?
100%.
You break a window, we arrest you. So the next guy
Great
sees
analogy.
that. Now, the only problem is if you're outmanned. So if you had, how many cops were there?
Well, they had a lot. They probably had 200.
So they had enough to start making arrests.
They could have started making arrests.
And they're
absolutely.
armed. Of course, the cops are armed.
They
You
had
know,
horses,
did they have any
had
riot gear?
motorcycles, they had riot gear. They were all parked on every side street with
You
vans.
start arresting a bunch of people, and the other ones see that.
Yeah,
And if they step in, you take out your nightstick and you thump them.
right.
Well, you do what you have to do to protect the police that are
Police,
making the
right,
arrest.
of course.
And you guys too.
100% they should have done something because, as you said, that's the perfect analogy. Because now the next time they do a protest, they go, we can go right down the street.
No
We can
consequence.
stop. Look, they're stopping traffic on the bridge. I'm like you said, I'm for protesting. I don't want you shutting down the bridge when there's hardworking people trying to go to work. There's maybe ambulances trying to
Right.
get to hospitals. You don't. This is America. You don't. And you know what? I would have loved to see them start going through and arresting them and deporting any of them who are not here legally.
Right.
Because that really, I always.
Because they're not American citizens.
You have a
many of
right.
them.
You're a lawyer. You have a right. I know I have a right to protest.
You do.
If you're not an American citizen, you're not covered under my Constitution, are you?
Well, look, they can arrest you, but they can deport you.
I said, deport them. Deport them for disorderly conduct or whatever. Whatever. They're not here legally. If you're going to go out and protest and get in the street and break the law and put police in.
Well, think about it. If they're burning an American flag, right, you have to have an allegiance to the United States.
Right.
When you get sworn in.
But they're not sworn in because they're probably illegal.
Right, but let's say they want to do that
Right.
someday. Make it so that, you know what, even if you don't deport them, they can't become American citizens.
Right.
And many of them will go home at some point.
I mean, you have video, facial recognition. I know when I've done protests, people don't like sometimes that I do my protests. They come out and they videotape us. And they have facial recognition now. You can track down. They should. You know what? They should video
Right.
all these. That's why these people are now covering up their faces too. In the universities, they're saying, you know what? They're telling them to cover up your faces with the kafifa so that you don't have to worry about not getting a job. I would say I'm proud if I'm out there protesting or supporting America. I don't have a mask on.
Your group is not wearing masks.
We are not wearing masks. We're holding our American
Unless you're afraid
flags.
of COVID or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, exactly. But we're out
And that's
there
not why
proud.
they're wearing masks.
No, well, I'm out there. Go let everybody see me. I'm proud that I'm an American. I'm a proud Jew. I'm a proud Zionist. That I support Israel. And you could have a discussion about whether how Israel operates and laws within the
Right,
country.
you can always do that.
We could have and I could see that Jews could say, oh, we don't like this, but how do you Israel has the right to exist? They didn't attack anybody. When people say ceasefire, there was a ceasefire on October 6th. There was there was a ceasefire, right?
Right.
They
On the 7th.
violated the ceasefire. No, so what? The ceasefire meant nothing. Israel wasn't looking to attack anybody. They just want to live. They want peace.
What is the traditional thinking of, let's say, an older Jewish person who votes Democrat?
Well, that's a tough
Because
one.
the when you have a presidential election, is it fair to say, in the past anyway,
In the past, yeah.
more Jewish people voted for the Democrat than the Republican?
Right.
Why is that?
I'd say Jews have a history of voting against their self-interest. I was brought up to be a Democrat, right? I was brought up that the Democrats support Jewish people. We were the underdogs, right? Black people, when the civil rights movement, a lot of Jews were were active in marching
Yes.
for the black people, because we were saying, oh, they're underdogs, we're underdogs.
When those two black young men were killed, there was a Jewish fellow with them.
Right.
And I forget where it was, where they buried them in a bog or something like that. And there was a Jewish guy who was supporting that cause.
Right. So we have a history of supporting and the underdogs. So the Democrats were sort of the party that would support the underdogs. We looked at it like the Republicans were, the Christian right, and they would let their religion rule and they wouldn't let us be free. I just think we were so wrong, or maybe it changed too over the years, because as I was a Democrat, I believe in helping people. I still do.
Right.
When people
So
are
do
down
I.
on their luck. Right. But I said but Republicans too.
Right.
Now, when I became a Republican, then a conservative, but Republicans, they believe in helping people. They just don't be like, when people used to say, oh, the Democrats are trying to create a welfare state. I said, no, who would want somebody to be permanently on welfare? Who would want this? But now I see they create it because there's no incentive
That
to get off it.
legislation in '64 really hurt that.
Yeah, it hurt black people, even like in the black communities where the Democrats,
They
in
were
Chicago,
doing better before that, many of them.
right. I think it hurt it. So I think Jews think they're doing the right thing, and we're brought up. So it's history. Although as you said, it's changing now. I read somewhere that 52% of Jews will now vote for Trump. I personally look at how could any Jew, forget if you don't like. There's certainly reasons not to like Trump, right?
Sure.
He's not a perfect man for sure. I think we'd all agree that he did a lot. We
But
were
you
a lot
gotta-
better
but you got to
before.
vote your self-interest.
But I would say, but I think Jews would say, you know what? But we don't like him, so we're not. So you're going to vote for Biden, who's withholding weapons and telling them they're not going to support them, when there is nobody who's been supportive of Israel as Trump and all the Republicans for that. Most of the Republicans, not all of them, most of the Republicans are so pro-Israel. Marco Rubio, you saw him stand out. We had, we had Zeldin, just because we're on Long Island. He's a prominent Jew. He's always been outspoken. Elise Stefanik, who's possibly going to be a vice president. Republicans are so much more for Israel now than the Democrats. And I think it was, I forget his name. It was Bush's press secretary, drawing a blank on his name. But he said it's not enough to vote for a legislation to give Israel money. You have to speak out and say, I support Israel. It's not enough to just be there. You have to be outspoken. Yeah, because it's easy when, to vote to give aid to Israel. Because if you don't and something happens, you say, oh, wow, I was one of the ones who was on the wrong side of it. But you have to be outspoken and say what's going on is wrong, and we have to support Israel. And again, not just because Jews live there, just because it's democracy. Muslims live very well in Israel. Gays can be in Israel. It's a democratic
What I always say too is
state.
the people that are protesting. The irony here is they can't do what they do here there.
Very well. That's when the people leave their country, right? They're leaving these Sharia law countries to come to America to try to bring Sharia law back.
But to bash America and be able to go out there and protest.
It
How
doesn't.
American is that's American.
Right.
You could
Exactly.
do that. But like you said, queers for Palestine or gays for Palestine, go there. I always say, if I went to Afghanistan or if I went to Palestine tomorrow and I opened up a Facebook account and I say what I say here, what would happen to
Yeah,
me?
there wouldn't be no Phil Jusino show next week, right?
It wouldn't be.
But even people, I mean, listen, America. I'm not saying adultery is right. You live in the world of it because you're in family court and a lot of marriage. But if you commit adultery under Sharia law, you get killed.
Yeah, I think it's stoning. To be
So yeah, I don't know if those. And then I think gays are allowed to be thrown off the tallest building or something. And then if they live, you could do it. But you could be killed. You could be even in Russia. I heard today there's people in jail. Brittany Griner was when she was in jail, and she said, "What were the people who were in there with you?" Well, most of them were in there for like fighting back against their husband because their husband was allowed to hit them, but they weren't allowed to fight back. And this other people. I think in America we're so far removed from these bad things that we can't imagine that there's bad in the world. Because listen, you would never kill somebody. You can't realize people would kill somebody just because of their color or their beliefs or whatever. People don't believe, because we don't live in this world. We live on Long Island. We don't see this except for now. We see what's happening. Where is this going to lead? If somebody comes out and says, you know what, go out and break the windows of all the Jews' houses. There was 1,000 people at that protest.
They could do it.
Oh, if it takes 10% of them to do it, just like the people crossing the border. How many people the gotaways, the people on the terrorist watch list. It's a numbers game. So, yeah, okay, maybe they let 3 million in. Maybe 2.95 million are great.
I always use the example. I said, if someone gave you a bowl of jelly beans and said, there's only 2 of them that are poison, don't worry about it.
Right.
Would you eat any of them?
You got good analogies, Phil. That's true.
I stay up late thinking about it.
You do. That
No.
is a good
No,
analogy,
but
though.
I used that a long time ago when I was doing FM radio, and we were talking about that. And I said, think about it. If someone gave you a bowl of jelly beans and said only 2 of them, you wouldn't touch it.
Right.
Just like, remember when Trump said the people that are coming here, and right away they seized on that. He said, you're saying everybody. He didn't say everybody, but it's a numbers game.
Yep.
Even if 2% of
3 million. I don't even know, was it 20,000?
Right.
60,000
I suspect
people.
it's higher because the coyotes and the drug cartels, they're bringing people over.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's
And
huge.
China's,
numbers.
look at the numbers. You don't leave China unless they let you leave
No,
China.
exactly. So I know, because we try to have people come visit for work from China. They can't even get a visa to come visit sometimes.
So what is that? They're sending like guys over here to infiltrate?
Infiltrate. I think they come, they get educated, they learn where the weak spots are. I mean, we're gonna get destroyed from within. You know, there's people who said, listen, the enemy is a domestic terrorism. You know, I mean, it doesn't take many people to take an assault rifle and walk into.
Well, look what happened in 9/11.
Right.
You had a small amount of guys that were able to do what they did.
Right.
It wasn't an army of
But
guys.
we're inviting them in, Phil.
I know.
That's what's crazy. We're inviting, and again, I believe. Look, when you go back to why did the Jews vote? We're in a safe place on Long Island, but now maybe you realize it's not so safe.
So safe. Yeah.
I mean, if this can happen, that people can uprise. I mean, Jerry Seinfeld. Who doesn't like Jerry Seinfeld? You know, what did he ever
Not a
do?
political guy.
Not exactly. And they're walking out at Duke University. They're walking out on him. It's just crazy. It's insanity. So I think now maybe Jews are going to start waking up. You know, and again, you could believe in the democratic principles, but people say, oh, you know, I like abortion. I don't like abortion. To me, one of my number one issues is protection of my country, America, and Israel. That's a big. I don't want Israel being wiped off the face of the earth.
Right.
You know, I don't want my people being killed. I don't want another Holocaust, and I also don't want America being destroyed from within.
Right.
These are major issues for me. Yeah, abortion. I have my feelings on abortion and all these other issues, but you know, these are, to me, they're in the scheme of things, the hierarchy.
Well, I was going to say, look, the existence of Israel, I think, is a lot more important than a lot of the other issues. That are important also.
They're important too, right?
But you know, the I wouldn't call some of those existential.
Right.
I would the threat against Israel.
Or the whole United States. Look, we're at war. I mean, getting into off the top, but we're like the whole war is like up in arms. I mean, China can go after, you know, Taiwan. You have North Korea
Powder keg.
can go. So many things. And how many wars can we fight? Then we have we have Russia. We have Ukraine. We have Israel. I don't even know what side America's on. Really, we're just involved, you know, in all these wars. But what side are we really on? Are we really on Israel's side? They say we are, but then they withhold the arms.
Gary, with that said, I just have a question. What do you think the big picture at the end of this looks like? What do you think, you know, with the never again attitude, with Israel being very steadfast in their goal, what do you think this looks like in, say, a year?
I don't think Israel's going to back down to Biden. First of all, I think they're hoping Biden's not elected again. Although they don't really. They got to be hoping that, and so am I. But I don't think Israel is going to cow down, because our mentality and I'm an American Jew, is we cannot let this happen again. We have to get the job done. You know, to leave 1,000 Hamas members, that what are they going to do? They're going to, as Phil said, they're going to regroup. They're going to get their money. They're going to get their aid, all that's coming in, and they're going to come and attack again. So we have to get the job done. And to me, Israel, in my opinion, is not going to let anybody in the world, even if it means Israel, the arms get cut off. You know, listen, Israel has these arms, but they also have nukes. So at the end of the day, you know, Israel can go in and destroy with a lot less. Right. They're using smarter weapons now that they are.
Well, you know, it's interesting. If you look at history, right? America, we had the Korean War. We had Vietnam. The last war where we kicked butt was World War II, and we were successful, right? We didn't pussyfoot around like in the Korean War or Vietnam, worse. We went in there, we had a job to do, and we annihilated the enemy.
Right.
Whether it be Germany, Japan, we did what we had to do. And that's what gets back to the proportionality, where you leave those Hamas leaders and Hamas infrastructure in place. What is going to happen? What are they going to say? You know what? What we did in October was really not good. Let's never do it again.
Right, of course.
I don't see that happening.
No, and they got to be killed. Listen, bad people need to be killed and wiped off the face of the earth. Simple as that. They're bad
and,
people.
and innocent people will die in the process.
And it's sad. Nobody wants innocent people being killed.
Look how many people died August 6th, August 9th, Hiroshima, Nagasaki.
Right.
It ended the war. We can go back and second guess. Yes, Japan attacked a military target. We didn't. But they started it.
Right.
And we finished it. We could debate all day, but there was no
But those are real
proportionality.
wars, right? And those are the wars. And look what the world is a better place because of it, right? And I
Imagine
mean,
if the Nazis or Imperial Japan had won.
right.
Forget
I
about
like it to be known it was not just a civilian target. It was a major military hub of the Japanese
You
Navy.
talking about August 6th and Hiroshima and
Yes.
Nagasaki?
Yeah.
Yes, but obviously a
A
lot
lot
of
of, I mean,
Yes.
they knew, they didn't worry. They
You can't conduct a war to say we're not going to kill any civilians. You can't. You try not to.
Of course.
Obviously, you don't want to hurt any innocent person. But if they're under a hospital, or if they're under a school, what do you do?
How
Give 'em a
about
pass?
the world yelling, "Oh, Israel has to supply more aid"? Can you imagine if they told us during World War II, America, you better send in more aid to the Nazis? Yeah, that's not our. I don't think that's Israel's
But
responsibility.
we were good with the Marshall Plan. We rebuilt.
Exactly
Right? So-
and I think even people would do if they wiped out Gaza. I think Israel would be okay with building it up. There's not as people who want to kill them, But this thing with the Israel, they're well, Israel's letting people starve. Just let the other countries around there, let the other Muslim countries.
They got
Why
plenty,
does Israel
they
have
got
to
plenty
give?
of resources, those other countries.
But why does Israel have to give? Why are they bad for the people who went in and killed them, took hostages, and they're bad people because they're not sending aid?
Right.
They're not sending enough
amazing.
medication to that. This is how you. If you do, the war will never end because people will all have food. Let the people rise up and say it's enough for it. The sad truth is, they said Hamas would get elected today. They would get first of all they were elected, and they would get reelected. So it's not that everybody there is an innocent
Right.
person, but
They
of
put them in
course,
power.
right? They
put
put
him
and
in
they
power.
said they would put him in again too. Not that, and nobody wants
What's the
innocent.
alternative? It's like saying, who's going to run against Putin?
Right. Yeah.
Come on.
Exactly. But I mean, like I said, nobody wants innocent people getting killed. No Jew, no American, nobody wants innocent people. But war is ugly. We didn't start it, and it could end if the world would say, "Listen, guys, release the hostages and give up the Hamas leaders."
Right.
You don't think the war would? Then you would have an argument, I think, to Israel. Say, okay, the world went in. We took all the Hamas leaders out. We will make sure they don't come back. They're in jail, and all your hostages are released. Then you could have an argument probably to say, okay, you won the war. It's over. They didn't win the war yet. They're all still all over the place. And a lot of them left Gaza.
Remember in another analogy, in The Wizard of Oz, remember when she killed the Wicked Witch and how quickly the army of the evil witch said, you know what? There's nothing to fight over anymore.
Right.
We want peace.
Right.
That could theoretically happen.
It could.
If you get rid of the Hamas leadership.
I mean, I tend to think that people in the world most people want peace. Like, nobody wants their children getting killed. Not nobody. Some people think, oh, they could be a martyr. But in general, I mean, I think human nature is not to want to die.
Now, Danny had asked you a question about, like, in a year, what do you see? We know that at a lot of these elite colleges, a lot of the students, not all, but a lot of them are anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, anti-American. These, I call them kids, but these young adults are going to be in positions of power at some point in the very, very near future. Some of them are graduating now.
Yeah, it's scary.
Where do you see that going in, let's say, 5 years? There's a 5-year
I'm worried
plan.
about it. Yeah, I'm worried about it. I think, first of all, I think we have to do a better PR job. And I think if our leaders need to get out and say, this is unacceptable in America.
See, Trump will do that.
Trump will absolutely, this is unacceptable in our country. We don't go out and we don't protest supporting terrorists. But I think if, God forbid, we do have another 4 years of a Biden or something like that.
Or even a Gavin Newsom or something. The Democrats are not going to change.
Right. I mean, there's some better, like Kennedy, he's
not
running
gonna
independent, but he's not a chance. But if, I don't know, anybody who's like Biden-esque, I think it's very scary that these people are going to be running the country. And like I said, I don't think it'll stop with the Jews. I think it's going to be a culture of America is not a good country. Like we've
been hearing that for years.
But don't think it's going that way. They're having a hard time recruiting in the military. I mean, I don't see our generation. Yes, I don't see all the young people being proud Americans. I just don't see people being proud of America, thinking about they
you know
think
what it is?
America's a bad country.
I talk to people sometime, and people on the left, like if you said to me, you see the American flag out. If you said America, I'm saying America is the greatest country. Is it perfect? No.
Of course
No
not.
country's
Right.
not. But when you talk to someone on the left, they talk about it's imperialistic. It was founded on racist principles. These white men came up and then they quote things that weren't even in the Constitution.
Right.
And they say, oh, it says that something. And it's like, no, it doesn't. They don't know. They're not educated.
As you said, we made a mistake. Listen, we're not perfect, but we are the best. Even the court system. I'm the first one to say our court system sucks, but it's probably the best system or one of the best systems out there. You know, family court, I see other people who do, but we're one of the best
Oh, absolutely.
systems other places in the world. Listen, the people just got arrested for fun. A guy traveled with a bullet to
Yeah, I saw that.
where I forgot what country was it, a Caribbean
Turks and Caicos,
Turks and
I think.
Caicos. He traveled with a
I was there last year. Good thing I didn't have any weapons.
a hunting bullet. I mean,
But-
and the guy's in jail. Or even, not that I'm a fan of Brittany Griner,
Right.
but she had a little bit of marijuana in a vaping thing, and they were going to lock her up for years, and like in a labor camp or something.
Right.
I mean, that would not happen in America. This
Well, look at that
different
that
circumstances.
journalist, that's being held in Russia.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so our system is the best. Our country, I believe, we do our principles that we fight for what's best. But I think we're getting away. I really think we're getting. I think the war in Ukraine was started by the Democrats. I think that Biden started the war because he kept telling Putin he was going to let them join NATO, and he knew what was like when Trump says I could stop this war. I believe he would go there, Putin, and say, "Listen, we'll sign an agreement. We won't let Ukraine into NATO. You guys pull out, and we're going to protect them if you invade, but we'll guarantee they'll never be a NATO member."
So what could the government do, let's say, either publicity or policies, to protect Israel, to protect the Jews in this country? What can the government
I
do?
really think it's just speaking out and saying we are behind Israel. But this is Israel's
Full
war.
throated support.
They were attacked. 100% full. Listen, and same thing that you said before. Innocent people are going to die. But you guys want to. Why isn't Biden every day on the news saying, "You guys want it to stop? Release the hostages. Start with releasing." How many times? Oh, he makes comments. Oh yeah, we want them being released. Or there's Americans. Well, they're people. Americans, Jews. Who cares? They're hostages.
And I talk to people that support Israel, but then they start saying, well, they bombed Gaza and babies were killed. But what happened in October?
Right.
Babies were killed senselessly. And now they're just fighting back, and they're being the one
And what if they
that
did
is
nothing?
seen as the aggressor.
I said, what would you like them to do?
Nothing, right. Well, they would. They'd like them to do nothing.
Do nothing, and then they'll come back in. They've said it. Their leaders came out and said, "What is it? There'll be another one, another one, another one." They're telling us, just like Iran, right? They say what they want to do, and then we don't listen. And John Kerry goes and gives them all the money.
If history has taught us anything, appeasement doesn't work.
Does not.
There
That's
has
an
to be
easy lesson.
consequences,
Yeah.
and there has to be appeasement.
And strain through power. And as people would say, Trump was crazy. You know what?
Yeah, a lot of
Maybe
leaders are
little
afraid of him.
Exactly. Maybe
They don't know what the guy was going to do.
he's so crazy that if we did bomb Israel, maybe he would let Israel nuke Iran and destroy it.
But you can't let countries like Iran have nuclear weapons, and I'm sure they do, and to some extent.
But you bomb them now.
No,
This is, like you said, it's appeasement and kicking the can down the road. Like Biden, maybe it won't happen in his term, but maybe it'll happen in.
and he's getting a lot of heat from people within his own party, the far left.
I think that's the problem, don't you? That
They're not even going to vote for him. I'm not saying they're voting
Right.
for Trump. They're not going to vote for him.
right? Because he's not strong
He's
enough
not doing
against
enough.
Israel.
They're not even protesting Trump because they know what Trump is.
Yeah.
Trump doesn't support their cause.
Yeah.
But they thought they had somebody in Biden.
Right. And and the worst thing you could do is not be, in my opinion, like steadfast on what your
He's
what your goal is.
wishy-washy.
You can't be wishy-washy.
And he is.
You have to, one day, we're all support Israel, but we're holding back the weapons.
Because what kind of messages?
Don't
are you
read
sending?
into that. Don't read into the fact that we're holding the weapons.
Right.
But we are holding it, and then we're supporting it,
It's front page news.
I mean,
what do you think Hamas is going to
right.
say about that?
I mean, with the Hamas, just like the Hamas leaders saying they support the protesters. You don't think the world is watching these protesters at
They're
our
loving it.
colleges?
They're loving it.
Love it. They're giving pamphlets, and there's people like Soros giving money. They have tents. And I say, go in there, right? Same thing, be strong. We will not stand for anti-Semitic protests on our campus. And if you do it, you're going to be arrested. You're going to be expelled.
Consequences.
And instead, these poor people don't even get to graduate.
In the time we have left, where do you think these students, now, these are bright kids, right? They didn't. Obviously, they did fairly well in high school. Did very well in high school to get into a Harvard or Columbia. Where are they learning this? Are they learning it from home? I don't think so
I don't
much.
think so.
As they're indoctrinated maybe in high school
do
and
too.
in the colleges.
I believe so. Because first, a lot of the people forget the
What
people
parent
from
at
out of
home
the
is
country.
saying support Palestine?
Well, and especially the people who are going there probably have money, right? Because $50,000 to $80,000 a semester. So usually people who are like, anti-Semitic, racist,
And there are
whatever.
professors on the protest lines with them.
But they were trying to. So I think the indoctrination came from I don't believe it came from
I don't think so.
the
I agree with
the
you.
parents at home. I think if this never would have happened, but these universities are being so.
But but when you watch them, right? They're like zombies. They just believe what they believe. They probably went to these schools. These professors are like gods to them.
Right.
And when they talk about Columbus did this or Israel did this, they buy it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, I guess they're vulnerable, and everybody, like I said, everybody wants a cause, and it just sounds like a good cause. And I really don't think they're saying anti-Semitic things. I don't believe a lot of them really. I don't believe a lot of them are really. Of course, some of the Palestinians are, but
That's what worries me. They think they're the moral ones.
yeah, but I think they
They do.
Yeah, they say, oh, Israel's gonna let them. They believe that the appeasement. A lot of people in the world. I mean, a lot of leaders in the past have believed in appeasement, right? The people aren't. They don't look at history, and you want to believe the other person. Just like when we gave the money. I go back to Iran. Just like when we gave all the money back to Iran, and what they do, they used it to buy weapons
Even
again.
Obama, pallets of cash, and you
Yeah,
can't do that.
You can't.
And then you know what they were saying? Well, it was kind of their money in the first place.
Right.
We seized it. But what do you think they're going to do with that money? Oh, it's humanitarian aid.
Right.
No.
Of course not. Of course they. So
They're
but
putting that right into their science.
But don't you, I almost think Biden believed that if he gave them the money, they would leave us alone.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think for 1 second Obama or Biden
I meant
thi-
Obama.
right, thinks that they're going to use that for right. Look, Obama, a very bright man.
Yeah.
Biden, I'm not so sure,
No.
but they have people around them. So when they do that, what do they think is going to happen?
I don't think like Obama thought that they would use the money to attack us, because who would want to be the person who gave them money and then for them to nuke us?
That's too trusting.
I think in his mind, it's too trusting. I think I mean, I wasn't a fan of Obama,
Right.
but I probably wasn't a bad person. He loved his family, and I think he probably thought in his mind the appeasement. Hey, if we give them, there'll be peace in the world.
Right.
Just like the people say, give Israel, just give them more land. Bring your enemies closer and closer to you. And tell them not to do it, and they'll stop.
See, I don't want a leader whose heart is in the right place. I want a leader that's going to do the right thing for America and its allies.
Yeah.
Israel is a big, big ally.
And it's just right too.
and
though,
we have
Phil.
to
It's
protect
just
them.
right.
It's just right.
They should just. We shouldn't let them destroy any nation, but especially Israel. Our biggest ally in the Middle East. They transfer information. They get all knowledge.
I just hope we're almost out of time. I hope Trump gets in, and
Amen.
I think the landscape will change. You still have the fringe, but I think it'll change immensely. So I want to thank you, Gary. I
Thank
really
you, Phil.
appreciate
Thanks
you
for
coming
bringing
on.
the
we
subject
could have
up.
talked for another hour. See, I told you, I was
Yeah.
running out of time, and this hour slot is not enough.
No.
But I want to thank my audience for watching. Again, you can catch this show on Facebook. It reruns, Spotify, YouTube. This show will be on the 23rd of May on Cablevision for you Long Islanders, channel 115, 10 p.m. Have a good night.
Thanks, Phil. You're awesome.
There you go.